Today I'm going to give you a walkthrough of my 2019 December daily albums. Yes, there are two. You can see the one is a little chunky and I ended up having to go over into a second one because I just couldn't make it fit. I ended up also using the red Merry Everything and a Happy Always last year, and I was fortunate enough to be able to pick up a second one. And that would have been like last fall, or excuse me, early this summer when I did grab one. My word last year for the project was the word joy. I picked these wood letters up from Target and just spray painted those gold. And I loved, those are adhered on a transparency. And you can see that I'm fussing, that's a little stuck there. These are tags. Well, maybe these are tags with everything that are currents. So currently loving, we're eating, we're currently into, our holiday drink of choice, our most wanted gift. I did that for my husband and I. And you can see that it's got our initials, and I used real tile on that hexagon tile. So that immediately added to the bulk of the album, but I absolutely loved the texture that it added. And here we also see there's some texture. This is wallpaper. This is from samples I had from an interior design project that was a little while back, one of the commercial projects from my former job, and I absolutely loved it. See that shimmer? I'm contemplating doing another thing like that for this year. This idea I scrap lifted from Amy Gretchen as far as my reason why, and part of my word, which was joy last year, and how I focused on that. We get into day one. That's a close-up of some of the details of the Advent calendar. I did share that on my Instagram stories, and I'll make sure to add that to my highlights so you can see further. And it just kind of talks about what I'm looking forward to this season. There's also transparency there with the star so you can see through it. I always love those, and then you can see through it on that side as well. I always love any of those types of elements. Day two is kind of a funny story. So we had just gotten back from going home to Michigan, where I'm from, to visit my family. And as soon as we had gotten back, my husband checked the level in our propane tank for the heat. And of course, we're like, have nothing. And to say, baby, it's cold is an understatement. It was freezing. And the soonest delivery we could have gotten was like Tuesday without having to pay an insane amount of fees for an emergency delivery. So we had to go to the gas station and get 5 gallons of diesel fuel to avoid running out. Because if we were to run out, then they would have to bleed the lines. It's a mess. Here we go into day 3. That's another New England winter shot. One thing I will mention to be mindful of when those types of photos, I was noticing there was some yellowing around the pages, and that's a photo I did not print at home. That was one that was from Walmart. So just something to be mindful of where you have your photos printed from. That's a story of a complete merry mess as it was around the house, trying to clean, get things ready. We were having company. My family was coming for a few days. A Tim Holtz metal token, some DMC floss. Number 3, call it good. Day 4, this I did also share on Instagram. That's a cork number. It was from Studio Calico a few years back. And I know Allie, I think, had on part of the good old days. I created that iPhone in Illustrator, took screenshots of text messages between my husband and I. He was out traveling, and ended up including that. And I love that. That makes it so not front and center by it's hidden. You kind of have to actually go into it. Especially, it's greater for kind of hiding those more personal stories. Here's day 5. This was an ornament stand that my husband had stepped on and broken when we were setting up the tree, which I do explain that in my reason why. And I love that it turned into that number. I also love how the shape of it and how it kind of hugs. You'll see the image below, which is the wreath that hangs over the big window in our dining room. I'm standing in the kitchen to capture that. And this is part of day 5. And I absolutely love stripes. Always love stripes and polka dots. Stripes forever. And I love the contrast between, like, you have a bigger pattern, and also then the smaller pattern, and then just kind of the light and the dark, always, always. And that's from Pam Baldwin, December Daily Product Play 2. And here that is from the story stamp, gratitude story stamp. I photocopied the pattern that comes in that for like the practice to use that for the paper there because I needed something a little bit more muted or mild and wrote 5 things I was grateful for. Day 6, the way I included our wrapping paper, just punched them out, different shapes of hexagons. I had missed out on those, hexagons that had some of that were treated with the gold, if you want to call them foil or something. So I made some of my own. I cut out cork and then used washi tape to mask and then spray painted them and included some packaging from Starbucks, just all sorts of things. Well, my husband, what I'm showing you here is pointing to, my husband was out in LA for work for a week. So I wanted to be able to include his photos and tell the story of that as well in his words. And I pulled together for that word sunny, had pulled together the letters or alphabet from Allie. A photo of him on Disney's campus, used a paisley press here that was from Week at a Glance, and I just altered it so it could fit only the 5 days. And then we kind of lead into the rest of what his week looked like. So I did print these this was printed on, I think, matte photo paper, and this was printed at like Walmart, and I did it that way just so it included the photo and I didn't have to add layers of bulk. But hindsight, I probably would have rather have done it that way, the photo and then the paper behind it, because it was really hard for him to write on it. Included some of those flags, and then I custom made this pattern, and that was to represent one of the new wreaths we had gotten last year from CB2. It was an infinity wreath, and I loved that. Just a simple tag that includes a moose from one of the Christmas cards we got. Just kind of love that. Didn't have to be much. And I just wanted also here just kind of a resting place. There was a lot going on before that, and I felt like you just needed it before we got into the story of the tree. So you'll see a photo of all of the trees and then a photo of me setting up the tree. Now here I have done this since my very first apartment, and I was, 19 or 20 with my first place, and it's putting twinkle lights and tulle and aluminum foil, and this is just kind of showing a little bit of behind the scenes. And here further, you'll see like all the lights and the Reynolds wrap. And then I'm telling the story about how it doesn't feel like Christmas until the tree's set up, and then even the tradition of how that came to be, or that I still do that. And another thing, like we set up the tree before we had actually gone to Michigan, just to kind of get a head start since the holidays were so late. But even though, say, that happened on whatever it was, the 22nd or 23rd, I still put that on the 7th. That's where it fell. So it's okay to add those stories in later wherever they fall. I'm okay with that. Another detail shot of decorations around our house. I love doing that or including that, and especially before, as a transition, before another story. This was my take on one of Allie's prep days that had the circle with the spinner. With that spinner, I immediately thought joy is all around you. And that's exactly what I was feeling last year. I saw it everywhere leading up to it. And that actually became my one little word this year. And that's just a short little story about how I was finding joy and how I was feeling joy, and included some of those photos. And like, here's a photo of me, like where there's a tag on that sign that says try me, and that's why I ended up putting that word okay, and then we bring it home. So there's a photo of it displayed, or we're in front of Radio City Music Hall where it says, make time for joy, or the doormat where it says joy. Day 9 is another Amy Gretchen's idea and from Product Play 2. This is achievable without a silhouette. Now I will say that was my second time, and it was a little messy, and it's not perfect, but I am completely okay with that. Even though I have a silhouette, I could go back and redo it, but just seeing that reminds me that you can completely achieve it, and I am letting it be. I'm okay with that. Here's day 10. I did have a story that goes with it, but I know I can't seem to find it, or like a letter written to myself. So I'll have to double track that down. I do love this, the double layering of that. And then that's transparent numbers from the kit. That tag here, you see me flipping, that was from the Joy Story kit. That was an add-on. And it was supposed to be like a gift tag, but what I just ended up doing was putting like "you are enough" and then using a brad and piercing the page protector so that way it could still swivel on the exterior of it. A black and white photo, I always love those. And I especially always love balancing them where you have the left side and the right side, so it helps. Just felt letters, using a heart for the word "O," and then a list of I think that said counting the joys, and just a list of 10 things that or maybe counting the love, 10 things I was loving. For day 11, I did show this on Instagram, that it's a 4x6 acetate that this treat bag is on, and I had just trimmed that down. This is a photo of one of the completed puzzles. We had puzzle pretty much on our table actually since November and until last month. We've had a puzzle for different puzzles, rotating puzzles. So I took a photo of this, printed it, borderless 4x6, and then just cut it down into puzzle pieces. And didn't have a silhouette for this, but I did have those large wooden craft puzzle pieces. So I had flipped the photo over, traced the shapes, and then cut it out that way using a craft knife. So it could be a great idea for your album. Another way to include something that's a little bit interactive, maybe doing that with a puzzle, possibly do it maybe with a gingerbread house. I know a lot of people are doing that with a Christmas store this year. Maybe you could also do that with your advent calendar, just something to think about. My sister took this photo of us, and you'll see there's kind of that white strip, and I am 100% okay with that. We were doing the puzzle, but if I would have enlarged it to do the full 7 by 8.25, it would have cut us off. So I let it be. And there's my journaling there that goes alongside for day 11. But I forget how much I love vellum photos, and that it can reverse the image. So I need to do that more often. Day 12, using the Roman numeral for that. That's another great alternative. And just capturing different photos. I adhered the 2x2 page protector on it. One thing I'm trying to point out there is that that black chipboard that was from Paisley Press 2018, that did rub off on that page you'll see on the left side. So just something to be mindful of when some of these different embellishments, they can leave marks on pages. There's a photo I took through the doorway of my sister and niece. They were both putting on mascara at the same time. And then one of my nephew laying his head on my sister. So I love being able to capture those little moments like that. Just trying to pay attention to some of those different relationships and just those sweet things. They don't stay young forever. We don't have children, and so absolutely adore them. There's a transparency that was an add-on from last year. And then just trying to include more photos on the page from one of our adventures out of seeing more of Connecticut here. Day 13, we took a trip into New York City. We're about an hour and a half away. And I was trying to figure out how to put the number 13 on and decided why not just put it right on a taxi cab, because they normally have numbers, right? It was a completely rainy, dreary, drizzly day. Trying to figure out how to make it happy and bright, and it was. Here's a flip up for some of the story, and on what goes underneath is that they're like the trumpets. So that kind of worked a little bit perfect, or what worked in my mind for the word joy. Here's some close-ups of windows. That was an anthropology display with a bunch of yarn, so holiday crafting. There's one that looked like tons of rainbows from like Louis Vuitton, and that transparency of city sidewalks was just awesome. That little circle, it says like bring on the twinkle, and so you can see there's like a star one, and then that's a clear one. And then what I'm pointing to there is like we saw it was the just light display at Saks Fifth Avenue, and it was just magical. pure magical. People standing in the rain, but just like it didn't matter. I mean, to see this display and it's like the streets were fully quiet. I loved it. Afterwards, we were walking past like Rockefeller Center and to try to find a washroom. And I happened to turn my head and I saw this of the tree. And I just like, and all the umbrellas and the people walking and their silhouettes, I just love that photo. In Photoshop, I did burn the sides a little bit. That's what I was pointing to. Another way to include more ephemera, I asked everybody to take one of their Metro tickets and stamped their name, just messy, stamped, embossed, and then put some of what they wanted. Like my brother-in-law, like, I don't need anything but socks, like my sister, a long black coat to cover my butt. My nephew had this thing for like Gucci fanny packs. Like when we took him into the Gucci store, he was in heaven. I don't know why. But that's in a like vellum pocket that's on the outside. You'll see there, I love those things where it says, love this. And it's pointing to like the Statue of Liberty. That look around quote, that's from Hamilton. And then there's a photo of our Christmas card. I had originally intended to do something different for that page. That was a little bit more still of stuff of New York, but then I kind of had changed it up. And just kind of a simple transition page before I move on into the next album here, which you'll see I'm trying to flip everything and bring everything over to keep continuing more of this story. So here's the second album. And I just, rather than jumping in the story, I just decided to do another star transparency. This is just kind of just simple. It's a big snowflake, a bunch of DMC floss just kind of looped around underneath. And here we jump into day 15. I ended up taking one of the digital wreaths and just creating like the pattern for further to large that for the 14 by 18, 8 by 25. We had spent the day, we had gone over to ESPN campus. My husband works for Disney. So that was great for the kids to be able to see that. Building gingerbread houses, getting ice cream. We did the family photos. My sister's a photographer. So it was a really fun day, just everybody spent together, trying to capture, tell more of the stories. I wanted to include all of them, but not, it's a great way, I guess, for me to do it. Day 16, what you'll see me there, I was playing, those are a bunch of clocks that I had in my stash. And so I wanted to figure out a way to use them. So I guess you could say technically this album is not complete, but this story is a hard one. And it's one that tripped me up for quite some time. But it's somewhat written, about 90% written, but I just have not added it yet. It's a hard one. So I just got to a place I had to skip it. So we're moving on, day 17. This is talking about my family had left and I was just like gutted. Had such a hard time. It just like my spirit crushed. Just talking about the heart of Christmas, how wonderful it was there. And that was an idea that was from Allie about that hexagon kind of flip up. Made it my own. Into day 18 here, just including a little bit more, kind of keeping it a little bit simple. A few photos here. Some stuff, this is looking out at the house. I love that star that's a see-through. One thing I need to be mindful of is that's going to go on that circle underneath of how the photo and the journaling is going to have to go. Twisting my journaling so it kind of lines up with that story card. I love those photos of footprints. So here we are jumping into day 19. And this I wanted to make sure to include because Carl Hope, and I hope I'm saying that name right, but had sent me a package. I had wanted some star wood veneers, and she sent me a package of tons of wood veneers, and that was all the way from Singapore, and it was so kind and so generous of her. So grateful for this Craft the Story Facebook community. And so I ended up telling the story of that, and also the other package that we'd received from Ben's parents in France. And I loved that. It was so sweet. Here we go into day 20. Super simple, right? This is the only photo actually of me from when I was crafting, I should say, or just making even though this was taken days prior, I was okay with including it then because it still worked. And I wanted to make sure it was something that I included. Here we go into that was day 20. So here's day 21. I loved that photo just because I was a hot mess a couple of days. And I also liked, again, like the light and dark, and that not everything had to be such a long story. I was feeling super sad. I was feeling super heavy, but things were quiet. And I had an entirely different idea and everything planned, but I decided don't make it more complicated than it needs to be, right? Everything was calm. It works. It can be that as simple as that. So day 21, I used that one idea from Allie of using all those numbers up and then just put that sticker, all is calm. And then we get into, this was the final push, that done by December. So thank you to Allie's creative team, because these were the last few days I had to do, 22 through like 25. And I wanted to use my stash up. Day 22, I was sick, which is not the opportune time to be sick. So that just tired freebie from Allie, I ended up using and paired that with all of the circles and just told the story about how I was sick right now. And it was not great, but I was probably just extremely run down. You'll see on the back side there, you see me, you see some of the camera overhead, just trying to show you that. I ended up using a circle mirror. I love this. It adds something different. If people are looking, they might see themselves. Just another idea, you guys, just to consider. Maybe some of you guys might be super traditional with the digital. Some of you guys might like to play with something outside of the box. So up top it says right. Below that it says be jolly. I use those transparent, like I don't know if they were wreaths or something, and cut them up to make a border. That's a photo. Here we are on day 23. I had taken of my husband and I in the Target, I think those security, that camera. And what it says below that is holiday portraits. Thought it was kind of funny. Told the story about how we had a few last minute errands to run up. And on the back side of it, that's a photo with one of those headbands that I wanted to include. That actually was taken in October, but I loved that photo so much. And where, you see through on the transparent page, it says like be jolly. On that tag, it says be merry. And just wanted to talk about kind of like my obsessive love of Christmas and everything. So this is right before Christmas Eve, and another close-up of some of the Christmas presents. I always try to do at least one, if not several of these, like just take for myself. And I have a few different ones that I didn't necessarily include in the album, but that will go into like the back side, that will go into one of the zip pockets. And there are a lot of photos that didn't necessarily make it, but I'm okay including them like separate or add-on, I guess I could say. So here's for day 24, it's me setting up the table. This photo's a little out of focus and the color was off, so just turn that into black and white. And again, I'm okay with it being a little bit out of focus. I still love it. When I smile super big, it sometimes gets crooked, has ever since I was a kid. What I'm pointing out is something also I had learned during Week in the Life, or to be mindful of, is that sometimes those embellishments can actually rub off and leave marks on your photos. So that is why I put a transparency between them. And here I just really wanted to try to use up everything, like different cards from my stash or tags. And this layout is inspired by the talented Laura Wansick from one that she shared in her recent big picture class. I loved that and thought, how can I translate that for here? And I just told the story of what we would be eating on Christmas Eve and what that looks like, and what a traditional Christmas Eve dinner looks like for me, and what it normally looks like for Ben, and us trying to marry both of our traditions together. This we took, I set the camera up and on just a timer, and this one got out of focus because of the Christmas tree lights behind, and it's probably one of my favorites. I used Roman numerals again to do 25 because I wanted it super minimal. And then rather than doing a Christmas story, I decided to do a looking back and do it from the perspective of now. And I wrote this here a couple weeks ago, but do it looking back. What was I grateful for? What moments, what memories, what stood out to me? and different things about the project, and included another photo that I took or on South Timer of watching Ben open a Christmas present, and which I absolutely loved seeing him do that. So just, there are so many things about this project that I absolutely loved, different things I learned along the way. I can't wait to get started this year. I'm super excited to dive in. I feel it's a great relief, obviously, to have these stories told and this album completed as well. So I hope that helps. Thanks for watching this. If you guys have any questions on anything, any materials, supplies, processes, just let me know. I'd be happy to share. And thanks for watching. I can't just wait to see what everyone creates this year and all the stories. And even though things are going to look different this year, I hope that you're able to find joy and create magic and just have a wonderful and blessed season. Take care, guys. Bye.